Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Now, what you've been waiting for is my NBA playoffs reveal. Let's get started. And let's get started with the East first. Um, with 1 seed Philly versus 8 seed Washington, I feel like Washington, um, they can be somewhat competitive and make it interesting, but I have Philly sweeping the Wizards. Now, just because they sweep the Wizards doesn't mean every single game is going to be a blowout. Because I do think there will be essential games on here, but in the end, I think Philly will get the sweep there because the Wizards just don't have an answer for Embiid, and since Philly plays defense and the Wizards don't, I feel like that's going to be a problem. Second, see Brooklyn versus 7 seed Boston. I'm going to go Brooklyn here, obviously, and I'm going to go with another sweep. Um, I feel like maybe there's one game where Boston could make it interesting, but without Jaylen Brown, I feel like Boston just doesn't have enough firepower to keep up with Brooklyn. Even though Boston's one of the better defense teams, they just don't have enough offense to keep up with them. Third seed Milwaukee versus 6 seed Miami. This one's very interesting. I had this going 7 games. But in the end, I'll have Milwaukee prevailing though, getting revenge after last year. I can see Miami totally getting upset here once again, but I feel like with the addition of Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker and Bobby Portis to to help out Giannis, I feel like that is enough to kind of get them over the edge this time. 4 seed New York versus 5 seed Atlanta. I've seen many different predictions here. I've seen kind of split. Some people say New York, some people say Atlanta. Um, I can see it being Atlanta, but I'm gonna go New York here in 6 games. And the reason why is not necessarily because of Atlanta, they like the team itself, but I feel like it's because of Coach Nate McMillan. Now, like I said, he deserves to get this job full time. He is a very good coach, and he's a good culture builder, basically, like a Tom Thibodeau is. But in the playoffs, he has done jack squat. Like in the past 3 or 4 playoff appearances, it's been first round exits every single time, and a lot of times, you know, it's like not even close. It's like sweep or gentleman sweep or something like that. So they're not really competitive in the playoffs. So this would be kind of interesting to see. Um, is he gonna finally turn a corner here, or is he gonna, succumb to his normal ways in the playoffs that he has been? So we'll kind of see there. Um, and then when Philadelphia would play New York, and I have Philadelphia win the series in a gentleman sweep, so in 5 games. I feel like New York needs more offense to keep up with Philly since Philly's an excellent defensive team, and New York's just not gonna be able to provide that offense. But they can keep a lot of these games close because they're hard work in defense. But again, there's not enough offense there. 2 seed Brooklyn versus 3rd seed Milwaukee. I have this going 7 games. It's just an interesting matchup because this is the one, like, because we've seen in a playoff format, if you can't contain Giannis, it's over. And as we saw with Boston back when Kyrie was on that team, they just could not stop Giannis. Giannis was able to do whatever he wants. That's why they were able to generally sweep them before it eventually losing to Toronto in the conference finals. Well, Brooklyn's the same way. They don't have an answer for Giannis there, or even Brook Lopez or something like that. Um, and Milwaukee can actually play some defense to kind of contain KD, Harden, and Kyrie. Now you're not gonna be able to contain all 3 of them. One of them's gonna go off, and you just gotta pick your poison there. But I feel like let's say they contain Kyrie's, where it's just now Harden and KD. Can that be enough? Or let's say they contain, you know, Giannis contains KD enough to where it can have Harden and Kyrie. Is that going to be enough to overtake Milwaukee there? And I'm not sure. Um, in the end, I'm going to have Brooklyn survive here in a 7 game series here to advance to the conference finals. So you have a Philly Brooklyn conference finals matchup, and this one I have going 7 games. Again, Brooklyn's not gonna. If they don't have an answer for Youngster, they're not gonna have an answer for MB. That's for sure. And again, since Philly's gonna be the defensive team, I mean Milwaukee's good defensively too, but I give Philadelphia a little more of the edge on defense. And since they're gonna be a better team than Brooklyn, I feel like there's gonna be some problems here. But again, just too much firepower for Brooklyn, and I can get them to prevail against Philadelphia there to the finals. Now in the West, 1 seed Utah versus AC, which we'll find out tonight. Either Golden State or Memphis. Let's just assume it's Golden State, um, since the home teams have been doing well at playing games. But I'm going to take Utah here in the gentleman sweep 5-1 because Donovan Mitchell, is going to take a while to kind of get into a rhythm. Golden State can have somewhat success, starting off in the series. But I just feel like to win 4 games against this tough Utah team, I just feel like it's going to be too much to overcome. Phoenix versus the Lakers. Now, this is all interesting. Again, this is all dependent on health here for LeBron AD, especially LeBron, since you can kind of tell in that playing game he's still not 100% per se. Um, but I'm going to go with the Lakers here in 7 games, and here's why. In the end, LeBron, I feel like kind of like will his team, to get them to play their best basketball. Especially, can get AD to get play his best basketball, so then that way it takes the pressure off him. And then also, I know Aiton's pretty good and all that, but I just don't see a matchup that Phoenix has for AD. So I feel like that's going to be a mismatch for them that they can exploit. Um, so I have Lakers, yeah, winning, surviving that one 4-3. Third seed Denver versus 6 seed Portland. Now, if Jamal Murray was playing and Will Barton was playing, I automatically take Denver here. But because that's not the case, I'm going to take Portland here for the upset. Although some experts and analysts actually still like Denver to win the series despite not having Jamal Murray. But I feel like you got to have him in order to get the first round. As you saw last year, Jamal Murray became the best player on the Nuggets last year in the bubble in the playoffs, not the Joker. So you're going to need that type of guy in order to get through Portland, who has a bunch of offensive weapons there. So I have Portland winning. I have it going 6 games because I feel like Joker and Michael Porter Jr. They could all be enough per se to kind of get you a win or two, but I feel like Portland's gonna win it. And then I got the Clippers versus the Mavericks here. I had this one going 7 games. It could have gone 7 games last year if KP never got hurt. So we'll never know there. It's mostly the same team for the Mavericks this time around. So I'm not sure that's an advantage or not. Like usually you can say continuity, another year together is an advantage, but because the Clippers, they have a bunch of whole new role players, new pieces, and all that for this matchup. So I'm not sure that's an advantage for them because the Mavericks have to get used to them or not. But I think Tyronn Lue here will make the difference because I feel like he's a better coach than Rick Carlisle. So I'm going to give Clippers edge here in 7 games. But again, I feel like Luka Doncic can make it interesting. And again, we'll see if Pandemic P, Paul George, happens once again or if he steps up. And if Kawhi Leonard, apparently he has hand issues, we'll see if, he's able to step up to the plate and do as good as he did last year against this Dallas team. So then you have a 1 seed Utah versus 4 seed Clippers. This one I have going 7 games. And I have the Jazz surviving to beating Clippers. I know I like matchup wise, I feel like the Clippers actually are the better matchup against the Jazz. Like I feel like they can cause the Jazz lots of fits and all that. But I just feel like with Utah having the home court advantage, I just don't see the Clippers being able to win maybe 2 road games in Utah in order to defeat them and go to the next round. Because I feel like that's what it would take there. I just don't see that. The home court advantage altitude. Because remember, not only the altitude advantage and all that, but Utah has 71% of its fans in its court, which is the most out of any other playoff team by far. So I feel like, again, that could be an advantage there. And then 6 seed Portland versus 7 seed LA Lakers. Lakers went automatic. We saw this matchup last year, and it's not going to be much different. I feel like it may take 6 games for Lakers to win versus 5 like it did last year. But again, Portland with its bad defense, Lakers with its really superior defense, they're gonna win. So you get a 1 seed Utah versus 7 seed LA Lakers. So I feel like if it wasn't a Clippers Lakers matchup in the conference finals, I feel like this would be the second most likely Western Conference Finals, Utah versus Lakers here. And I have this going once again 7 games, but I have the Lakers here surviving. And it's not, again, it's just because of matchup problems. We've seen this before where with Utah in the past where even for some like Rudy Gobert just does not for some reason match up well with AD. It's because AD can shoot from now. If AD is struggling for the perimeter, that's going to bode well for the Jazz. But if AD could be hitting threes and getting his mojo back from the outside, then that's going to cause problems for Utah there defensively, and because he has to go out there and help him. He can't be that rim protector, like he wants to. And then again, it's just like the Lakers with the way they play defense. I just feel like that's going to cause problems for Jazz. You just want to like try to pick and roll and try to jack up threes and stuff. To where I feel like the Lakers are going to force them to beat them, making 2-pointers instead of 3-pointers, stuff like that. Would be kind of interesting dynamic there. But yeah, I take the Lakers there barely. So then you have a Brooklyn Lakers finals, which a lot of people did, a lot of people want. Again, I could see this totally be something different, but I'm gonna go ahead and go Brooklyn here in 6 games. I feel like with LeBron 80, that's enough to win you a game or two. But I just feel like again Brooklyn has too much firepower, and while the Lakers have one of the best defenses in the league, I feel like the offense will prevail here. So I have Brooklyn winning it all. Now, so I shared you my playoff predictions. Now again, once the first round is over, then I'm going to give you my updated playoff projections, just in case if things don't shake out the way I anticipated in the first round, just because I want to be on par with what's going on. Um, Now, real quick to talk about the playing game so far. A lot of people are debating about whether this was a success or not. A lot of people, I would say, more people are finding this a success than not. If you ask most people, but I'm kind of 50-50 on it. So again, I like in the fact that like I like the teams not tanking the final couple games, and like the Blazers playing hard, the Lakers playing. I don't like because I would have hate for them to tank type of thing. So I like that aspect of it, and you kind of need a playing game in order to keep that alive. So I understand in that regard. It's extra basketball, which is nice, and I love that and all that. But as we saw, with the Western team so far, those games, I mean, it looked like both of them could have been blowouts, but in the end, it came right up to the wire, which was nice and all. That's the March Madness feel you want to have. But the Eastern Conference, all three playing games were blowouts. So, and that's what you don't want is a blowout. Because if these are going to be blowouts, then why play a playing game at that point? And it's kind of interesting that the Eastern Conference was the ones that was a blowout because 7 through 10, all their records are pretty much evenly the same versus the Western Conference where there's a gap between 7 and 8 and a gap between 9 and 10 type of thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting there, but um, I I feel like if the Grizzlies can get an upset tonight against the Warriors, then that kind of shows okay, yeah, now the plan's for real type of thing, because then you got some actual madness. But I was hoping this play-in tournament was going to be like March Madness. In a way, it is kind of, but I feel like with all the home teams winning so far in the play-in, I feel like in order to make him like a true March Madness style and true one and done style, I mean neutral court like we saw in the bubble with Memphis and Portland to get the AC. I feel like that is the ideal scenario. But again, I'm not in charge, so that would be my suggestion of how to make the play-in better for next year if you're going to do it again next year. Is to make those neutral court to make it more fun and even all that, so you can prevent potentially less blowouts like we've seen so far. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm in the playoffs. I'm looking forward to it. Even though I'm going for a lot, for the most part, favorites here a lot. I feel like it could definitely things can go sideways, and it can end up being a whole mess, not chalk like I predicted it to be. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel. Tell everyone about me. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.